Say, where do I do? Who do I do?
Ay, wait lang, natakpan si Sir.
Oo. Hindi, gusto nyo talaga magsama kami. So, what class is this?
Picture writing class.
Oh dear Lord. Why me? Okay.
First of all, thank you so much, Sir Nick, for agreeing to be interviewed by us. I know that you have a hectic schedule and you came all the way from Japan in this week.
I came all the way from Japan! Okay, go.
Okay. To our viewers, we have here with us a big personality in the Philippine film industry. We have here Sir Nick Deocampo, the director of the Center for New Cinema. He has already made a lot of films and has authored several books on Philippine cinema, and his works has already earned him a lot of prestigious awards as well. Now, if you can first like to go way back, sir, for a little while, we want to know, have you always imagined that you would someday become a film practitioner, let alone a multi-awarded one? I mean, what was it like for you growing up?
Oh no, I mean, far from it. I grew up in Iloilo, although I was born in Manila. And growing up in Iloilo, of course, there are movie houses, but really no chance for you to make films because there are really no studios there. So when I was young, it was a totally different thing. I wanted to be a scientist, but there was really no chance for that. I was so promising. I won all the way to the silver prize in the national science competition. You know that there are competitions when you're in high school, right? So my project, long before pollution was a topic, I was already into it, and I was given a laboratory at the basement of our school, and I was just this lone mad scientist, all right? But in the end, it wasn't meant to be. Maybe all the resources were not really there. Wala pang tulong from the government about this. Wala pang mga national science high school and all that. So it was pretty difficult. And so later on, I wanted to be an astronomer, and again, unfulfilled. So I became a poet because words are easier than, having test tubes and microphones and microscopes and all that jazz, all right? I wanted to be a journalist also until later on I started watching movies, just to get myself perhaps entertained. But I watched this fantastic Italian film in some third-rate movie house in Iloilo. It was called Fellini Satiricon with Federico Fellini. And from then on, my life changed. I mean, oh my God, what is this? Kasi pinapanood lang noong una, di ba? Mga comedy, mga action, mga chapo films and all that. I mean, good for entertainment. But suddenly, I saw a film that totally changed my life. This is by Italian director Federico Fellini. And so, after that, oh my God, I said, well, it's nice to watch movies, and could I become a director? It was far away from my thoughts, but maybe I really wanted to be a filmmaker, and I enrolled towards fourth year high school, and then I passed sa UP dito sa Diliman, and then I came here, and only for me to find out that there was no course on filmmaking, none. So I went to mass comm, and then all I saw there, were big, parang studio set up, and I said, I don't think it's my course. And so they newly opened, when I came in, they opened the theater arts. And so I said, I'd get this course. So I transferred to theater arts, and then graduated with honors sa course na yan. Until later on, I won an essay writing competition on film criticism, and then the UP Film Center, which was separate from the from MASCOM noong una, got me to work for them. And then by December, or 6 months after I graduated, I was sent to Paris to study film. Now, if that's what you mean, that did you imagine yourself to be a director? Not necessarily. Because what I took up in Paris was documentary filmmaking, and not necessarily the directing that we know it to be, which is really meant for fiction, right? So, yeah, I became a director for documentary, but when you're a documentary filmmaker, you're really you're a documentary filmmaker. You're not necessarily a director, because we're resisting towards the idea of a director, especially because of the school of filmmaking that I was in. It was called cinema direct or direct cinema, which is really an offshoot of the cinema verite, wherein the director, mas communal kasi ang philosophy, rather than I am the director directing reality. So, after that long story, so here I am, yes, I finally, started making movies, especially when I came back from my study in Paris in 1982.
Okay, so you understand that you have studied overseas,
Yeah.
and have been twice been recipient of the Fulbright scholarship grant. So can you please tell us how this happened? Like, how was this experience?
Right. So after I returned from Paris, I had to do a job here sa UP, and before I would go into the Fulbright, I had to render my service muna in UP, di ba? So I conducted workshops, and I actually fall in that line of trainers that earlier were headed by the likes of Lino Broca, Ishmael Bernal, Betty Galiaga, and who the hell was I, following that line? In other words, I became a trainer after these very distinguished names. Also did some training for those who wanted to learn film. Kasi wala pa talaga tayong film school nung una. Wala pa ang UPFI. We really were the ones breaking the ground. It was called the Cinema as Art Workshop, which started in 1974. Alright? So I came in actually around 79, 80. Then as I said, 81, I graduated. I was sent to Paris. By 82, I returned. And I carried on the workshops that were being conducted by Broca, Bernal, et al. Alright? And so I totally shifted everything because I used the amateur medium of Super 8. Alright? They were using 16mm and 35, and honestly speaking, they accomplished nothing. I mean, they're big names, but it was all theoretical lectures. They tried to make a film. They could not finish the film. I'm sorry to say that, but you can counter-check it. But in my workshop, we empowered ourselves. Okay, this is amateur medium. It's Super 8. It was used for binyag, burol, at wedding. Okay, kasal. But then we started really taking the medium seriously. We made very profound films from out of those workshops. Lumabas ang mga pangalan ni Raymond Dredd, mga Agbayani brothers, the Alcazarin brothers, Roxley. Big names started to get trained in terms of the workshops that I conducted. And I was not only contented with production, me. So sabi ko, gumawa na tayo ng bumper crop films. We, produced 9 films for the first workshop. So the next thing I did was to hold a competition. And I set up what I call to be the first Manila Short Film Festival, not knowing that there was a film festival before martial law. So I thought it was very pioneering, But, I became a historian as well and found out exactly that, we belong to the second movement. And that's exactly how I'm writing it in terms of the history of independent cinema in this country. But then, I was not just isolating ourselves as UP. Then I started knocking on the doors of Ateneo and De La Salle, and I found out, oh my God, these people have been working on short films too. And so I put up the first Manila Short Film Festival, and then that was, I would like to think, the birth of the short film movement. So I was already planting the seeds already as early as 30 years ago in terms of what I would consider as the alternative form of independent filmmaking. I had manifestos, I held congresses, and then the interesting thing about it, take note of the year, 82. 81, martial law was lifted. Come in. Martial law was lifted. And then, the thing is, by 83, we know exactly that Ninoy Aquino would be shot. Alright? So, we were sort of heading into the eye of the storm. And that was very, very interesting because I was mobilizing the young filmmakers in this country to really make documentaries, to make experimental films, to create a creative space outside of the movie industry, which was under the control of the state, of the martial law regime, all right, or at least the after effects of martial law. It was still a military regime, all right. So the thing now is, para bang we were born at the right time when major events were to happen in the country. So ako naman, dahil nag-train ako sa Paris, documentary filmmaking yun, in order to gain the respect of my students, I'm not there as a theorist alone, right? I was there also to win the respect that, I teach you because I know how to make films too. Katulad ng ibang mga teachers natin dito, di ba? Kahit ng University of the Philippines, oo nga, MA, PhD sila, hindi naman sila practitioner, di ba? So in my case, every Saturday, I will use the same equipment that my students were using, go to Tondo and make a film. And several films came out. The Super 8 trilogy about the theme of poverty and prostitution during the period of martial law and after. No? So what I was doing there is, maybe you've heard about Oliver, this homosexual who prostituted himself in the bars of Ermita, who became Spider-Man, inserted 100 yards of thread inside his anus, and spun a web around it. Of course, that was audacious because some people who know the history of documentary would ask this very crucial question. Before the making of Oliver, what was Philippine documentary like? Those who remember, they remember that documentary became propaganda under Marcos. Documentary was about the smiling people of the Philippines. Documentary was about, agriculture, green revolution, all these things. But nothing as audacious and as hard-hitting and socially realistic as that film that I made, because it was about the poverty that the country was going through, as seen through a character, a real-life person, who was living his life in the film, working at night as an entertainer, a prostitute, and then during the daytime he lives his poor life in Tondo. So wow, that really created such a strong impact. And then I also made a film, the most difficult film I've ever made, because it took me 5 years to finish it, and I faced death threats for that particular film. The film is about child prostitution, not only here in Manila, but also in Puerto Galera and in some other places in the city. And the third important film, because it's a trilogy, it's a Super 8 trilogy, right? What some people would say as my magnum opus, which is about the outbreak of the EDSA revolution. So I was there to document it, right? Thank God it was only 4 days because I only had 10 rolls of film and each roll lasted for 3 minutes. So it's almost like you only have 30 minutes worth of footage and you don't know how long the revolution would last. So dapat hindi ka trigger happy, hindi ka shoot lang ng shoot kasi ubos na dapat first day kung kasi grabe ang mga images. The tanks were rolling in the street, people were crying with their rosaries up, helicopters were flying, people were just coming out from everywhere. Pwede na ubos ang 10 rolls of film ko. 30 minutes lang yan eh. Sa first day pa lang, but tipid ka talaga. Kasi second day, first day ko, of course, takbo ka sa EDSA, di ba? Dadatingan ang mga tao pa lang. Nagliliparan ng mga helicopters, anda dyan ng mga tangke. Second day, eto na, nagpapakbakan na sa TV station. Takbo ka na dito, takbo doon. Yung pangatlo, umalis na si Marcos, takbo ka na doon sa Malacanang. Pag takbo mo sa Malacanang, naipit ka na sa entire humanity na gustong pumasok sa Malacanang. Only for you to hear na sa loud speaker na Malacanang is trapped with landmine and bombs. Ay, naipit ka na. Gusto mo bumalik? No! Gusto ko bumalik. Hindi ka na pwede bumalik because the flood of humanity is pressing you. Pinupush ka doon, bumombahin na, puputok na daw. Hindi naman, sa awa ng Diyos, wala namang panakot lang para hindi pumunta ang tao. Pero wow. Ano isushoot mo dyan? Hindi ka naman pwede mag-shoot. So, puro top shot ang kamay ko, nakaganyan na lang. Bali, shoot ka na, hindi mo na alam kung anong pinag-shoot mo. Oh my God. And then the fourth day, ano na ni Cory, di ba? I mean, on the fourth day, sumumpa na si Cory sa luneta. O di, perfect! Na-shoot ko in 30 minutes! Wow, landmark. So, yun, tapos dinugtong ko yung mga kwento ng ibang nangyari, pati yung movies ko. At sa huli, ang kwento ng ang kasaysayan ng lipunan, ang naging personal na kasaysayan ko rin kasi it was my coming out party as a homosexual. Na dineclare ko ang sarili ko na in this moment of liberation, I was so audacious na liberation ko rin as a human being na tumira ako sa takot ng regime na yan, bakla ako, and nasa dilim ako, but now I see the light. So, I mean, it was a very difficult topic because, ano pa kailam ng kabaklaan mo sa liberasyon ng bakla? Para sa akin, lahat ay may kaalaman. I mean, lahat ay konektado, hindi ba? I mean, sexual repression leading to a national liberation. Dapat kasama kami sa liberasyon ng bansang ito. Kaya ngayon, baklang-bakla ako. I mean, earlier than that kasi takot ka kasi militarization, di ba? I mean, takot kang maging bakla. May takot ka lang palagi kasi repression. Kaya ang repression na yun led naman to sexual repression eh. Kababaihan, bakit? Ano ba kayo? Repressed din kayo ng panahon na yan na wala nang ginawa ko, inirape kayo ng nirape. Nakipaglaban din kayo. Sinundan ko lang kayo. Nakipaglaban kababaihan. Hindi, makipaglaban ng mga bakla at mga lesbiana. Lumabas na tayo lahat, huwag nang matakot. Di yun na. So, makahulugan para sa akin ang lahat na yun. Ano nga ba yung tanong mo? Ay! Oo nga! Yung Fulbright! I'm sorry. Ito lahat. Oo nga. So, 86 yun. It was in 89 pa naman. Kasi ang dami mo ng backstory bago ako pumunta dun sa 89. Bakit nag-89 na yan? Alam mo kung bakit ako nag-Fulbright finally? Alam mo naman, mga anti-American din tayo. UP tayo Hindi ba? Di ba nagsusunod naman tayo? Naku ang FPG na yan. Ngayon, 89 yung 86, di ba? 87, 88, hanggang umalis ako ng 89, napaka-depressing. No? Kahit sabihin mo, kapanahon ni Cory yan. Si Cory in the first place, besieged siya by the coup d'etats. The military was really so strong, di ba? And number two, ang pelikula ko, hindi nakapag-suffer talaga ng censorship kasi tago ako ng tago nung una sa mga militar. Alright? Pero ng 86, after the revolution, sabi nila may kalayaan. Pinalabas ko ang pelikula ko sa PTV4, that's the People's TV channel, di ba? Tapos, gusto na i-censor while on screen, while it was being aired nationwide. So sabi ko, ano ba ito? One frustration after the other, one frustration after the other. Sabi ko, nag-a-adjust kasi ang lipunan natin, correct? Nag-a-adjust siya. So, okay, alright. So, yun. I had a lot of frustrations, and in the end, I told myself, in the first place, I left UP na pala. Kasi hindi mo ako tenure dito and all that. So I was taken by Mowal Fund. But anyway, I was already in Mowal Fund, working for the movie industry, running a film school, alright? And then, sabi ko, kung transition to ang lipunan na ito, and I need to attend to my own growth also. And the other half of Miga Valley, dahil outside of UP, hindi masyadong ma-intellectual ang buhay doon. I needed to, alam mo naman tayo, we hunger for knowledge and all that. And alam ko naman knowledge ang path ko I value education so much because I grew up in the squatter, yan na naman ako, in the squalor of Iloilo City. It's bad enough to be poor in Manila. Can you just imagine how a poor life? And I'm not embarrassed about my life. I belong to, I had my humble past. Alright? That's the reason why I'm in UP because ang mga intellectuals dito, ang mga matatalino, nakakapag-aral ng libre. Di ba? I used to pay 60 pesos only because we were that dirt poor. May mga grants sila na binibigay noong una And so, nakita ko itong Fulbright, di apply. I got the Fulbright. Di ba? At ang sabi pa, umalis na ang lahat ng mga grantees noong una, hindi pa rin ako nakakaalis kasi hindi pa ako tanggap ng school na gusto ko, which is New York University. Binalikan ako ng embahada and said, well, you can go to Chicago or UCLA or do all this. Sabi ko, no, it's either New York University or nothing. Alam mo ako, demanding, di ba? Nung huli, bang! Tinanggap ako ng New York University. So kahit late na ako ng mga 1 week or 2 weeks na bale, o di, punta na ako ng Amerika. O, nag-aaral na ako doon. Oh, how was it? For me, it was the best time of my life. Really, honestly. Yun na parang pang tinapon mo yung pagong sa tubig. Alright? Diba? That's where, kasi, intellectual growth Tapos libre. Wala na akong ginawa. It's almost like a job that I did. Because for 8 hours, outside of going to my class, I would go to the library just like I was going to work. Diba? Sometimes I'm the one who opened the library. I'm the first one to be in the line and then the last one to go home. Nire-remind ako palagi ng mga guardian na, Sir, we're closing. O, hindi ako pa naman. Oh, really? Ganun naman ako, di ba? So, I love studying. I hope you do your post-graduate too because it's very enriching. I was an A student. All of my classes, flat A ako. So that I was made to hold our class banner during the anong tawag mo nito? The processional, during the graduation. Not so many people can say that, especially because New York University is along Broadway Street. Broadway, mama! Broadway, pare! Broadway! Naglalakad ako doon, bit-bit ang class banner namin. Lahat sila nakasunod sa likod ko. O, di ba? Ang ganda-ganda ng feeling. I mean, of course, Filipino ka. Okay, ando doon ka. I mean, with my humble past, and there I was, at the top of my class. Whereas ito, alam mo, English is our second language, di ba? But how I was able to manage, terror ang mga teacher. Terror! But I managed to get straight A, and it was the best time of my life. Then as if once scholarship is not enough, I got another. This time I was a senior research scholar. All I did was just to research at Washington, D.C., at the Library of Congress, at the National Archive, wherein, di ba, binabayaran ka pa with modest stipend, all you do is produce knowledge. It's a beautiful feeling. Because I'm just a poor person, di ba? I mean, I wish I'm very, very rich, that I can just spend my time, siguro, doing the things that I love, which is searching for knowledge and then producing knowledge by writing books, or making films, or teaching. And here I am now teaching.
Regarding your teaching profession, sir, what led you to becoming a professor above all the other things that you did in the past and right now?
Well, first of all, teaching, that's where my core values are really, alright? I'm a teacher. Di ba, ang unang trabaho ko dito, pinaturo nila ako. Malay ko sa paggawa ng pelikula. Wala akong kaalam-alam sa mga, I read a lot of books, and then the first job that I had here was to run a workshop that was earlier run by the likes of Broca, Bernal, Galiaga. Oh my God! I mean, di ba, yung tipong, and yet, if you want to, actually, the people I've trained, if you really care to research on them, these are the people who now constitute the big names of independent cinema. Mark Mayle, who won several times in the Manila Film Festival. Oh my God, big names already, who are working for, si Ronald Arguelles, actually, siya pa nag-remind sa akin sa Cebu just 2 days ago na, Sir, estudyante mo ako. He was among my first students. Who is he now? Head of Cinema 1, correct? Ang dami na nila na napag-graduate kung abali. And doon sa filmmaking talaga. And now, I'm of course training you, some of you here in abali. Kaya it's about time that you enroll in my class. Ito, at least, Miss Limpo is in my class already. God knows who she's gonna be 5 years from now, no? Alright, so, there you are. Why? Because teaching is really something that I love to do. But beyond that also, complementary naman yung aking pagiging filmmaker. Because I'm making films that can be used also for my teaching. The books that I write can all be used for my teaching. And I find out exactly na teaching in this country, especially film, we have a long way to go. many of the books that we use are really foreign sourced. What the hell? And, I mean, I strongly protest against that, no? Yeah, we need to know the semiotics and psychology, psychoanalysis and post-structural and all of these things, but they should not be the end all of our knowledge. Dapat, ito na nga, tama itong ginagawa ng UP na inaaruga nila kami, they're giving us grants to write books. But then again, of course, nag-aagawan yan sa time namin when we teach also. So my point right now is, we need to write more books na bale, and my teaching facilitates that because these questions that you ask are questions that I carry back home, and in the evening, I go through them and try to answer those questions. Not these personal ones, but questions about, film and reality, film and society, all of these things are very important things. So, summa total, beyond teaching, I think the real motivation for me is this production of knowledge. I'm a sucker for knowledge. I hold it sacred. Napakahalaga. Ang dami kong tanong. Di ba? What is life kung wala kang tanong eh? I'm not one who will be easily satisfied by, accepting the answers you give me, that you hand me down. But I always have the occasion to ask, and teaching is a great way to answer some of those questions and to ask for new ones. Well, we have to wind up, huh? All right. How many minutes more do we have? Is somebody timing this?
Like, we have 5 minutes.
5 minutes. All right.
What can you say about the film industry of the Philippines now? I mean, when you think of the future of Philippine cinema, what gives you a sense of hope or what concerns or worries?
The movie industry is in a transition. Transition because the first 100 years were really what we would call the traditional one. The medium, the technology that was used was chemical-based, all right? The paradigm for that cinema was, let's say, mass audiences. So many other things and ideas were identified with those 100 years. You see, every major development in cinema is really technological. And it is being proven again by our generation, wherein digital technology is revolutionizing what you would consider as the movie industry right now. In fact, as you know in our class, I'm introducing a new paradigm for us to be able to cope with this revolution that is exploding in our midst and in our generation. All right, I call it the rhizomatic because while our notion of cinema, including its history during the past 100 years, was very much monolithic, that it was industrial in terms of its nature, function. All right, what we see right now, and to a certain point, independent cinema as a concept is handmaiden of this new revolution that is happening. The coming of digital technology is resulting now to a plurality rather than a monolithic definition of cinema. So, cinema now is becoming pluralized. Cinema now is becoming more fragmented, segmentized, so that I would like to one day see that cinema in this country should not only be known as a movie industry. In other words, it is not only industrial, because the indie cinema right now is beginning to prove it that what is industrial in terms of one person doing a film in an artisanal way or in a collective way. Isang grupo ng advocacy group, NGO, doing their own films. They're not a part of the industry. Although there is always the tendency, which is residual of the past, that force all of these fragmented elements to form one, because ang notion natin ng Filipino identity is singular and hindi siya inclusive, no? Kaya namamayagpag itong mga IPs natin, mga indigenous people natin na stop looking at us as one Filipino. We are not one. We are Filipinos, but stop insisting we are just one and the same because others are Muslims. Where do you place the LGBTQ? Ha? Kasama kami sa inyo ng mga straight kayo? Kayo lang ang Pilipino? Kayo mga straights? Let's check. Hindi pwede. Identify us in terms of our sexual orientation too. Identify us in terms of our racial, yung may mga hybrid tayo na inchik, may Muslim tayo, may Kankanay tayo. My God, 81 ethnic groups tayo dito sa bansang ito. So, stop insisting that we are just one. You know what I'm trying to say? I'm abbreviating a lot of things, but we need to be inclusive while being plural. The same with cinema. Our society is changing now So must cinema. So, we must admit, in this rhizomatic paradigm right now, the short film, you ask ourselves, kung industrial lang tayo, saan ang short film? Sa kasaysayan ng movie industry, you tell me. Wala. Documentary. Eto na lang, student films. Saan ang student films? In your Urian book. Wala! The schools are producing more films in terms of the student films than what the movie industry can possibly produce. So, for heaven's sake. And yet you people, I'm awakening you, you write your own history as student filmmakers. You have a great history. Some of your films right now are winning in Busan, winning in France. Raymond Red won the first Palme d'Or award in Cannes for a short film, not a long film. O saan ang Palme d'Or ni Raymond Red sa kasaysayan ng industry? Because it's not a long film, it's not commercial, it will not be written in that history. Up yours. Alright? I mean, really now. So, can you see my passion as a historian? Ang daming pwede pa nating maisusulat. And so I leave it with this interview with this responsibility for all of us. For me, it starts with questions that need to produce new knowledge. The knowledge of the past, we can build on them. I'm not saying they should be irrelevant, not at all. I'm a lover of the past. That's why I'm a historian. But my point is, there is room for us, especially in cinema, so much knowledge to be produced, so much intellectual work need to be done. And so good luck to all of you. Alright, salamat. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
This is such a big rest. No, I am sorry because